Mario, welcome to For the Souls podcast. It's been a good minute since I've been back in the stew. I like how you switched up the place.
Yeah,
It looks
feng shui.
really nice.
It's got its feng shui thing going on.
Yes. Whose idea was it? Yours?
Yeah, of course,
Oh,
up
I
top.
like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
yeah,
You know what? It gives it a more open
right.
space
It doesn't feel
vibe too.
so clogged up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm glad to have you on. A lot of
thank
people
you.
don't know, but I actually record here at the gallery,
Right.
which is your place.
Yes.
And you do a lot of great things for the community, which I really, really love. And we'll get into that later on in the
Yeah.
podcast. But I wanted to give you an opportunity and just everybody who knows you to
Yeah.
kind of know you on a deeper level, more
Mm-hmm.
personal level.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, because I feel like that drives a lot of your ambition and a lot of
Yeah.
like what you do.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of the reason behind how you are. So give us a scoop. How was your childhood? How'd you grow up?
So I was born in El Salvador, and I think it was a pretty simple. Like I mean, my first years, from what I remember, they were pretty simple. Small town in El Salvador, and just kind of the ins and outs of a regular childhood for the most part. I went to Catholic school, so that was interesting because Catholic school is like a little strict.
Yeah, and
So
is it true what they say? Like
oh
down
yeah,
south, like they'll smack you with
oh
rulers and
yeah,
all
we
that.
got our asses whooped for sure.
For
Like
real?
it's kind of like where you gotta like the teacher asks you a question, you stand up and answer the question. You
Yeah.
don't just sit in your. And so it was very proper. I mean, I definitely got a lot of guidance out of that, for lack of a better term. But I will say that I think being physically abused was like normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of the thing, and I think like, um, I think that parents, I think that's if you're asking how I grew up, I think there was a lot of scheduled, just in case you get in trouble, beatings type of stuff. So yeah,
What do you
like if it was
mean?
like a Friday, right, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be Saturday, like, I'm definitely gonna get in trouble Saturday and Sunday, so I definitely got a beating on Friday.
Really?
Yeah.
How did that shape you, you think, as a person?
I don't, what's funny? Like, well, again, I don't know if it's funny, but I think that you grow up as it being normal, that I don't know if I would call it abuse. I just describe it as abuse because that's the only term that there is for it.
Yeah.
But it was so normal for me. And then I kind of grew out of that. So to me, it was just normal. And so I don't know how else to describe it other than it was just a normal thing to do.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting when we live in environments where we're not exposed to like any other way of life,
Right.
and that normalcy happens,
yeah,
that it's
yeah.
like it almost
Yeah.
like when I think of people who like, what is it, Stockholm Syndrome?
Yeah.
And it just becomes so normalized that everything other than that is unfamiliar, and that there's an attachment to their abuser, attachment to
Yeah.
the environment. And we see that a lot, I feel like, in a lot of people's just like life stories and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even to me, for like reeling it back into like your question, like how do I think that shaped me? I think for a long period of time, I didn't understand how to like receive or give love, right, in any kind of way, and so I didn't feel bad for things, or people. So it's kind of like if you were going through something, it's not that I didn't care, I just didn't take time to like hold space,
Yeah.
and I didn't know how to do that for people, and
So like empathy.
yeah, like I didn't have that, and
And you think that's because being younger you had to learn to shut off your emotions?
yeah, because there wasn't like, like opinions comes from emotion
Yeah.
and feelings, right? So I wasn't allowed to formulate an opinion or even express feelings. So if you're not even able to express feelings, then you're not even able to generate them. So it was kind of like, yeah, you fall and you cry.
Yeah.
You cried because you fell.
Yeah.
But then you're going through all these emotional things, but you're not allowed to express that.
Wow. So
You know?
like what did the process look like for you then to try to build empathy? I would imagine from like a lot of the people that I talk to, coming from a place of not feeling emotion and not being
Yeah.
normalized, it feels very uncomfortable.
Well, then, and that was the home thing. So I will say, like, I will say for me to be able to build that, I think it took a lot of failures for me to be able to like realize that my way of being was not something that's normal, and so then, I mean, therapy was the biggest thing that was, I would say that it's the biggest blessing because like, if even, I mean, it happens to me now when somebody say, "Hey man, I love you," it catches me off guard if I'm not expecting it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm not able to receive it. I'm still dealing on how to respond to it properly because it's a new feeling for me and I'm 45.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that I don't. And obviously, you go through these layers of like, okay, I had my kids, and obviously I love them and I care about them. So then I have like this like template of like, oh, what don't I want my children to experience? You know what I mean? And so like, I'm not soft with them,
Yeah.
but I'm also not harsh like or cruel to them. You know what I mean? Because I do have the acknowledgement now, like, okay, like feelings are important. Yes, they may not be factual, but they are feelings and they are important to that person.
Yeah.
So, and those people happen to be my children, my business partners, and I deal with that now. Like, I think, so even going back to the primary question was like, how has that shaped me? I think that maybe I was a late bloomer in the whole feelings department, but it's helped me in this parts to where I have to be sometimes calm, cool, and collected, and not be too reactionary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's helped me because when I'm able to shut off things, and then I'm able to turn them on at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And business in general. There's really
Business
not
is
that
the
many.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not that
There's
much
no
room for
feelings.
feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you grow up in an affectionate household? Did you guys have like hugs and te quiero
No.
mijo, things like that?
No. It
Yeah.
wasn't. So the house was a single parent house, you know what I mean? And my mother, I think my mother was a great provider.
Yeah.
But great providers aren't necessarily the most nurturers because they deal with providing. And that's a hard thing to do. But there wasn't, and I will say the balance of the love, the nurturing part was my grandmother. And then, but when she passed, it was kind of like, even to this day, I think like the person that taught me like love in the sense of for what it was. And I wasn't with her for a long time, but it was my grandmother. And then when she passed, it was right back into,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like every weekend was like, okay, I'm going to grandma's house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that ended, and it was like, okay, well, shit.
Yeah, back
Yeah,
to
back to
my
every
other
day.
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's so crazy. How was the environment like living in El Salvador?
So at the time when I turned, I think so when I was born, I was born in 1979, and so that's when like the Civil War started there, and so it was very quiet at first, and then once it started getting some movement, and then that was around the time that America was trying to fight against communism, so they started funding a lot of wars like Nicaragua, Honduras, if I'm not misspeaking. El Salvador was one of them, and so then the war just kind of blew up, and there was like fighting, and I think like um, when I say that, even though I went to private school, it didn't exempt me from seeing things on the road. Like
Yeah.
you can think of like body parts or people hanging from in front of your school,
Yeah.
and so that's another layer. What I said earlier, like layers of what I would call trauma, where it's like desensitized me from feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think like that's again going back into how it shaped me. Like it made me go through some things when I got here, because even when I got here, it was like an automatic like switch that went on.
Yeah.
Because when I got here, it was like, oh well, body parts, heads, people getting blown up, and then here they're just fist fighting.
Yeah. That's
like-
what I was gonna say. The culture shock must have been hella
Yeah.
to come to over
Right.
here and see like, whoa, what the heck? Wait,
Yeah.
so you guys don't have like
Yeah,
this, that, and the other going on?
Like I remember one time we got dropped off at a over. So the town that we grew up in was called Quesaltepeque, and it was considered one of the red towns, but it was still fairly safe at that time. And so that's where my grandmother's from. So I would get dropped off there on the weekends, and then we would go to like a family's coffee plantation. We would ride our bikes, and it was quite a ways.
Yeah.
But it wasn't abnormal to see like someone's body or that was dumped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then because I think as kids you just kind of like, well, okay,
Yeah.
that's okay, whatever.
used to it.
And then you just kind of keep going. Like,
Yeah.
And then we go out to play.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. It makes me like, not that I want to psychoanalyze you, but to an extent, it's like
Yeah.
there had to have been an impact seeing things that are so traumatic like that from such a young age. Obviously, we talked about one, you know what I mean? But how did that affect your like human connection?
Like I will tell you, like I think every woman that I've been with, they will tell you, like I think they will tell you, like, oh, that's a great dude. He's funny, but I don't know him. There's no one that ever really knows me.
Do you know you?
I know who I am. You
What?
know.
Why do you hide that from people?
Yeah, I don't think it's a hide. I think it's like um, it's not purposely done,
Yeah.
right? So like there is like imagine look like this. There's grooming, there's training, there's all these other things, right? So it's all a level in whatever realm you're in. You're trained to be something, right? And so I was trained to survive. And so when you learn to survive, you're maneuvering. So I'm constantly maneuvering because everything has a reason, right? At least in my belief, right? And so because everything has a reason, I have to decipher whether that reason is a good one or a bad one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I purposely do that. Like I just know that my brain is wired like that, and I
Yeah.
don't know if that's ever going to change.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that now I don't appreciate everyone's relationship now because I know that I'm not in the same. I don't move in a circle where I have to feel like I don't trust someone,
Yeah.
or now I use that all this training, right, that life gave me in the early stages. I just use it in this part
Yeah.
where is you obviously know what I do, which
Yeah.
is all the community stuff that we do, all the helping people without even like an ask sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
just kind of like learning to maneuver in that way. And then when something doesn't go my way or the way that we want it to, like the explosion just isn't there anymore. I just go like, okay, well, because I've learned to control my emotions because of all this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have people where you feel like they do know like I mean, I understand that we have so many layers to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and I relate to that obviously in a different sense because I feel like I didn't grow up at all seeing the things that you've lived.
Yeah.
But I get it in the sense that like I would say the only person that fully knows the real me, like all and the real me by like all the layers of me.
Yeah.
Every how I show up with everybody, it's the real me. It's just a layer of me, but there's so many layers to me. You know what I mean? Would be my
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
You know? Do you feel like you have people that know like all your layers?
No, that doesn't exist for me.
Do you want that to exist for you?
I don't. You know when you want something to happen for you, you have to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know what that even feels
I
like.
hear you. I hear you.
You know what I mean? And again, it's not like me. Some people get enamored with trauma and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of person. That I'm just like for me. I speak on like look like this. Like people know me for being funny.
Yes.
Okay. Some people know me for being very serious. Some people may not experience that part. That's because you haven't pissed me off. You know what I mean? And so, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or there's, and even then, I'm not like blatantly disrespectful towards people.
Yeah,
I
just assertive.
very assertive, and and so and then when you talk about my personal life with people that I've been with, or just other closer relationships, like they don't fully understand the scope of things because some people are not even prepared to hear what brought me to that situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yes, we're having an interview, but okay, cool. Like, you ask a question, I answer a question, and that's that, right? But when you're talking about an interpersonal relationship with someone that's a friend, some people would just sit there and go like, that's impossible. And then I go like, if I gauge the reaction of the person, and then I go like, okay, you're not even prepared to hear where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then I give you what you tell me you need me.
Yeah. So you're really good at analyzing people and
Yeah.
basing, okay, kind of like what we were talking about before. Like you see stuff and now it determines,
Yeah.
okay, this is how I'm going to navigate now.
Yeah.
And and like you said, that comes from survival. That comes from
Right.
a certain level of also protecting yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who to keep at arm's length, who to, talk to in what way. I get it. I
Right.
totally understand that. How long were you living in El Salvador?
Like I was there till the age of 12, like, because I got to the States when I was 13.
Okay. And when you moved here, where'd you move?
San Francisco. So we landed in San Francisco, and I'm from Hunters Point, Bayview Hunters Point.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
I have no idea where that's at in San Francisco.
So that's one of, well, it's not the project anymore, but it's the project. It was the projects back then,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of bounced around, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where I grew up. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in there, I mean, late 90s is when I got. Yeah,
And what'd you think about bake culture?
I see that. See, that's the thing. Like I think Bay culture now to what it was then, it wasn't the same thing. It was two
Really?
separate things because now now did it did it did it morph into what it is? Yeah, of course. And, we're all a part of that. But I think like it was extremely different. You know what I mean? Because some people like think other bands like, oh, it's the hyphy movement. I was like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but that's just music. But
Yeah.
there's
Well, there's
other
lots of
aspects.
layers
There's a lot of layers to it.
to the bay.
Like people do like, oh yeah, San Francisco, and I never said I was from. I never say I'm from the Bay. I say I'm from San Francisco
Yeah.
because I can't because of where I was, how I was placed. I'm not gonna claim I was from but the general description, yeah, this is the Bay, but like for me, like again, like I came here not speaking any English, and learning how to maneuver all these things, but I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like I can survive this,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because we landed where we landed, and it was like, okay, shit, I got to be crazy, and
Yeah.
that's what I gave it. I went 100%
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, by that time you were schooled in survival, so I would imagine
Yeah,
you adapted quickly.
yeah.
What were the people like there
Where in
in
and
San Francisco?
how like San Francisco is coined like the melting pot of, and fam, it's not that together like you, like at least at that time there was a lot of race based things.
Really?
Like at least in my high when I made it up to high school because I was in middle school for about a year and a half and then went on to high school and there was like a lot of race things like Asians against Hispanics, blacks against Hispanics, and then all this other
Mm-hmm.
things. So it isn't how people paint it out to be. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so there was that part, and then you got the kids like me that didn't speak any any English, and then but I learned fairly quick. I learned in about 6 months. I had it down, slang and everything. Yeah, I had to I had it down because I figured I was like, okay, assimilation is survival,
Yeah.
and I completely adopted the that,
Yeah.
and then unfortunately I was smart, and then
You said unfortunately I was smart. What do you mean unfortunately you were
because
smart?
it for the equation.
Yeah.
Like a smart kid that's trying to survive something that doesn't see an out past where I'm at because I'm a minor. Like I don't know what the
Yeah.
fuck. I'm just supposed to go to school and come back home, right? But that isn't usually how it worked out. You know what
So
I'm saying?
how did it work out?
It worked out to where like
We don't got to talk about it if you don't want to.
no, I think statute of limitations were good,
Okay.
but it's a matter where it's like obviously I've never been the tallest person, I'm still
Hmm.
5'7" proudly, but I had to use my brain a lot,
Yeah.
and the part where I like violence didn't scare me because I came from that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so aggression, you know there's something that's called like controlled aggression,
Hmm.
whereas you use that to get what you want alongside a plan.
Hmm.
Like that helped me out a lot to pave like what I wanted to do
Yeah.
in regards to like certain things and make money that way because I was like fuck, like everybody got nice things and I don't.
Yeah.
And
Do you feel like, in your opinion, the majority of people adapt that mentality in general?
I think so.
Do you think the majority of immigrants adopt that mentality?
I think the majority of immigrants that land in a place that you're not expecting to,
Yeah.
because there is the immigrant like that deserves more credit than anybody else, which is the immigrants that come and work the fields.
Yeah.
That's a completely different struggle.
Yeah.
And they're like, and I say what I say because there's no excuse to what I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because at the end of the day, I put myself through that because I wasn't also smart enough to know that was just wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just said like, damn, I can't get out of this other than by doing this.
Yeah.
Where someone on the field goes, well, I just pick more and pick more and pick more, and then I'm gonna make my kids and everybody work. But because where we landed and how we landed, mom was at work and I was privy to go do whatever the fuck I wanted, and then there was consequences. But I'm like, like when I got caught with my first gun, I was like, I looked at everybody in the office and I said, y'all put me here.
Yeah.
I had no accountability other than to blame my situation, and so that's why, like, sometimes I do talk about the things that I did, because I go like there was no excuse for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and obviously you grow up and you realize that, like, my experiences are not the way it should have went, but it definitely, I don't know if I wouldn't have gone through that, I'd be here today.
Yeah.
Like, at least like doing this.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think all experiences, good and bad, we learn from, and those of us, I feel like, that are able to, what's the word? I was gonna say agarrar la onda, but I'm trying to
Right.
think of a way to say it in English. Help me out. Those of us who,
Porque agarrar la onda is like catch the wave, homie.
oh, like in fucking, the way we use it is like get it together, like those of us who get it
Yeah.
together and figure it out faster. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? In terms of like, okay, we did all our bad stuff, and then we learn from that, and then we realize, okay, if we continue to do those things, then we could foresee that the avenue it's going to take us down is actually going to be counterproductive or counterintuitive to why we're even doing this in the first place. So we kind of know when to gauge to get out that life,
Right.
or to transition into, okay, I did this for means of survival or means to an end. I got to the end, and now I'm going to apply my knowledge and what I've learned, or my funds and my finances, whatever you're doing, whatever's your
Yeah.
hustle, to get ahead and do it the right way that doesn't have the repercussions of like going to prison, getting deported,
Right.
things like that.
I will say though, like, business is a lot harder than crime though, because like crime, you do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
There's no like, like even for me before, and I think that's the hardest part that I had in business even now, because back then somebody came to me with some feelings, something's gonna happen to you.
Yeah.
Like you or like, you stole from us, and well, we don't really care how you felt that you didn't have any money, you weren't getting what you thought you deserved, like you stole. So then now there's a repercussion. In business, it's kind of like, hey, like I feel you're not giving me the opportunity that I deserve, and da da da, and there's all these feelings that now you gotta sit with, because in business you can't just go around beating up people.
Yeah, or kicking people to the curb. I mean, I guess you could if you're a business owner, right?
Yes, but like
But-
there's a good way of doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and then also in business now, it's kind of like, like I'd rather have somebody with a gun come rob me than someone with a suit. Like, I'll take the guy with the gun because I know I know what to expect from that guy. But the guy that comes in with the suit, smiling and telling you, "Oh my God, everything is pretty," and then that guy is dangerous.
Yeah, because the guy with the gun is overt, so you can gauge
Yeah.
the danger in your response to that.
Yeah.
The one coming to you with a smile
Yeah.
is covert, and
Yeah.
you can't gauge
Yeah,
what
you
they're
gotta,
capable
yeah,
of.
you gotta, and those other things is kind of like and I say, like, I think going back to the prime, like the paving of how it put me in where I'm at, but I think like it has helped me to control, because I feel like for me, anger will always be a problem. And me not acknowledging the anger will always be a problem. That means that anger can become a problem, in anything that I do. So now it's just kind of, I think like I said earlier, like I think I've just learned to sit with things.
Yeah.
When things are not going the way that I want them to or prefer them to, and so that's kind of why, I'm like, I talk about with certain people about certain things, because I think a lot of people react to situations and not sitting with those things and then measuring their reaction based on what outcome they want, because everyone wants a positive outcome, period. But like, we just don't do enough to make that outcome happen, because if somebody comes in here and tells me, hey man, I don't really like what you're doing, I was like, what am I gonna do reacting to that? And that has happened before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, I think someone has that, like, well, he's not even from Sacramento, and he's out here doing it. It's like, well,
Oh, like taking it. See, and my thing is,
those are feelings. Like,
Yeah.
valid. Go ahead. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, but what you doing for the city?
Like, but you know what I mean? Like, and they might be doing a thing too, but they may feel like they have a and that's just an example, like no
Well,
names, no
I
specifics.
can't believe that you've had to deal with that though, because I think even though you built this empire of like We Are Sacramento and all that you're doing for the community, even like all that you've done for like
Yeah,
me and having this space to do the podcast, for someone to nitpick, and I get it because I understand there's people out there, but I feel like sometimes those people just don't see the bigger vision and the bigger like picture of what it is that you're doing and the
yeah,
impact that you're having regardless of where you're from. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because you've put on quite a lot of people.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have showcased so many people who otherwise probably wouldn't have got, their face and their name and their art out there, their business out there. You do a lot of community work.
yeah,
For someone to try to knock that because you're not here from, like, technically from Sacramento,
yeah.
you know, is, it floors me, honestly.
Right. And so then and then we were having that conversation, and then I just kind of said, well, that doesn't upset me, because at the end of the day, like, I think opinions are important, right? And just like feelings, but I don't have the time to entertain that situation, because then given that time and feelings and emotions right back stops me from doing what I do
Yeah.
best. And what I do best is my community work. So then, or the work that I do in general, like, I don't go, like, look, I don't donate my time as much as other people do.
Yeah.
You don't see me posting that I donate my time, because I'm a firm believer that my best work is my community work. So the work that I already innately do every day should be something that provides to the community, period, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Hence the space. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
That's a good transition point. How did you get into doing what you're doing? And give us a rundown for the people who don't know you or haven't heard you.
Yeah.
What basically do you do?
So yeah. So
A lot of things, but
I break dance on Saturdays. Now that I can go to the Olympics, you know what I mean?
Sheesh.
Man, no. So basically, I'm a photographer. On top of that, and I started, because of the photography, I started a photo essay called We Are Sacramento, which is how We Are Sacramento got started. But within the same time that we started our podcast called We Are Sacramento. And then it was that, and then that photo essay became the beer that everyone kind of knows, right? So then it became the We Are Sacramento beer, and then every year we change the people on the label, so the
Yeah.
community keeps growing.
Which it would be here. I
Right.
did want to showcase it,
But it's sold
it's
out,
been
though.
so
It's
successful
sold
that
out.
it's sold out. So
It's
that's a
sold
good
out.
thing.
Yep. And
It's not here for a good reason.
But the beer has been around for about as long as the podcast has been around, so about 6 years. And it's a collaboration with Oak Park Brewing Company. And then the blessings with that is that it became one of their core beers. And so, usually collaborations don't make it past the first run, second run. And
Yeah.
so we've been blessed to have found OPB. They're great people too. So big shout out to them. And then on top of that, like, own the art gallery, which is where we're sitting at in this podcast room. And then we produce podcasts and all that other good stuff. But primarily, I think that when people ask me what I do, I just, um, I don't consider myself an activist, because that's not a title that I like. But I am definitely, I just like to be called, well, I'm a photographer, and that's what I do. And
Yeah.
with my skill set, I'm able to do everything else that I'm doing now.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
do, like I mentioned earlier, you showcase a lot of people. I've found quite a lot of people, like potential guests for the podcast, artists that I want to talk to, just cool ass people in just meeting you. Which shout out to Cristiana, because
Yeah.
had it not been Cristiana, we
Yeah.
wouldn't have met.
Right.
Which was super cool too, and that's how we got connected. I came on to Healing Hustlers, which was also recorded here.
Right.
So the simple fact that you're bringing podcasts together, artists together, musicians together. I met some musicians through you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Some fellow beer lovers. I know I wasn't
Right.
drinking for a minute, but I'm back drinking.
Yeah. She back, y'all.
I am. I told Marco, I was like, I can't stay away from the IPAs.
Yeah. Them IPAs are killing people.
Dude.
Yeah.
But that's wonderful. Where do you see what you're doing going or growing? Like, what direction do you want to take this? I think you're extremely successful. If you guys haven't been to the gallery, they always host events too, which is another thing
Yeah.
that I forgot to mention. There's always different people doing events. You guys have had like women empowerment
Yeah.
sermons,
I
yoga.
mean,
I think I've seen here as well.
Yeah, yoga, because the Healing Hustlers, they come and do their thing here on on Wednesday, every other Wednesday, and you know they do their thing, and I think like for us, I think I will say I used to know what the end of the line looked like,
Yeah.
but I got to the point where I don't know what that looks like anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't see that as being a problem. It just means like I've let go of the control of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had the control that was needed for it to kind of get started,
Yeah.
but not because the gallery just kind of happened because it was a need that needed to be filled, right? And then we said like, well, what can we do now? So now the other thing that we're starting to do now, like we're gonna start doing installations around the city. So we got one coming up with CADA, and that's a state agency. We're gonna do something with them.
What's an
Um,
installation? Break that.
so
Sorry, because
basically,
I'm.
it's kind of like, you know, you create kind of like a backdrop or a set kind of,
Uh huh.
and people can interact with it, you know, whichever way they can. Whether you take, some people call it like, it could be like a photo op, right?
Oh,
But
okay.
for us it's more on the art end of things, because you could just put a poster up and okay, that's a photo op. For us it's more like we float, like say like for the women make the city one, we
Yeah.
floated Mari's idea was to float flowers, you
Yeah.
know, all over the that room,
Yeah.
and then amongst other things. So that's kind of like an installation to make it make
Gotcha.
something that's interactive with the public, so you can walk into the middle of the room and you feel like you're in a different
That
space. So
is
that's kind
so
of,
cool.
yep.
Congratulations to you guys. I can't wait to see.
So we're gonna start doing that kind of stuff. And I think the other things that I think that came about with the gallery is like to start representing artists,
Mhm.
like getting them more work so that we can work on commission base. So
Yeah.
we're gonna be shifting some of the business model to kind of execute more as a gallery, not
Yeah.
just a exhibition, not just an exhibition place, but just more of like, hey, like really changing lives for the better for the artists,
Yeah.
not just us. I mean, we do a lot, but I think that there's more that can be done.
Yeah.
And I think changing someone's life economically is kind of one of the best things that you can do, because then you're not only changing that life, but you're also training them to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
Because once they see what needs to be done, then that's it. Like I think like artists, like even like in music, right? Like because you do interview a lot of music, you know, if the artist has to do everything, then they're not doing the thing that they're good at.
Yep. Yeah.
So our place should be like, well, we're support. Like we shouldn't be like, if somebody knows the gallery more than the artist we're representing, then we're not doing our job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Makes
that's
sense.
something that we're gonna start doing, which is representing the artists that just kind of coach them into like self sustainability, because art, I mean, art in general is hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's something that we're gonna start doing. I think for us even too is the something else that we want to get into more is really honing in the part of the, like, how do we support businesses that are not only around us but like around the city.
Hmm.
Because yes, I do see like other things that happen that that support city businesses, but it's like they show up, they do it, and then they're gone, and then that support is gone.
Yeah, like a continuous support and how
Right.
to create that momentum
Right.
to have that happen.
And so and that's kind of like the stuff that we want to me personally I want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I think like the other thing that I have in mind is getting back more into my photography, which is I kind of put it in the back burner because of
Hmm.
trying to grow this. So if once we get this thing kind of honed in, I can go back into like what I'm good at.
That's
You know what I
awesome.
mean? So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I want to take a moment to give you your flowers because I think
Mhm.
everything that you just said right now
Yeah.
is really a testament to one of the reasons why I have felt so comfortable in wanting to like be here and
Yeah.
have my podcast here. I've
Right.
we've talked behind off
Yeah.
camera and stuff that like I have an issue with trusting people,
Yeah.
and networking has been one of my hardest things. And then plus, I've told you that I be feeling like I'm gonna get ate alive from the
Yeah. Yeah.
business aspect
Right.
because I'm super
It's hard.
feelings. But
Yeah.
you have totally taught me. You put me up on so much game, and you've taught me different avenues and directions to go, and you've guided me in
Yeah.
so many different things that I wouldn't even have known how to do. And I appreciate
Yeah.
that from you. So thank you.
Yeah.
And
You're
just the
welcome.
simple fact that you're sitting here saying that you want to help people pretty much make a living from what they love to
Right.
do
Yeah.
and be that support system for all the entrepreneurs and all the creatives and all that. That is such a blessing because being in that creative space, I mean, you know it. Shit is hard to get on your
Yeah.
feet. It's hard to get out there. It's hard to get known. It's hard for people, to recognize you. Sometimes you see other people doing what they're doing. You're like, what the heck? Like, my
Yeah.
product is even better. How is mine not out there
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah, but see,
And
that's the one thing that I kind of learned. I think the first thing because there's people that call me, right? Like
yeah,
they call me and like, hey man, I need some advice and this and da da da, and
yeah,
I'll take the phone call and I go,
yeah,
well, your ego is talking.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And they're like, wait, what? I go, your ego is talking right now. It's not how much you are seeing. It's who is seeing it. You know what I mean? Like I don't like even us. Like we are Sacramento. It's not like this fucking extremely popular thing.
yeah,
But if the right person you mention it to, and they'll know it, and then they're a person of like just a good person. They'll
yeah.
know who we are, and then
Doors.
that's
Yeah,
our
open.
lane. Like
Yeah,
that's our lane. Like I don't care if everyone knows us. I care who is it that we're affecting it, whether
see,
it's positively or negatively, right?
see.
You know what I'm
You
saying?
see that whole
Yeah,
perspective
yeah,
because that is so true. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
yeah. Because I
Or
don't
how
get
many people know
listen.
you, or how many people you know,
I
and
don't
how many
get
people know
credit
you.
for at least 5% of the shit. I don't get credit for 95% of the things that I do, and I'm okay with that because for a long time was like, rah rah, look at the shit I'm doing out here,
Yeah.
and I mean, you know what I'm saying? And then now I'm just like, you know what? That doesn't matter to me anymore because at the end of the day, it's like, look, I have played the villain in a lot of people's lives,
Yeah.
but that same villain has also played a blessing in somebody's life.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that even the people that I've helped people that I no longer talk to, but they are still doing the things that I taught them.
Yeah. And you
And
find peace in that?
and I find peace in that
That's
because
awesome.
I'll be like, hey, that's a logo I made. Oh, that's something I told them to do.
Yeah.
That's just and then I don't go around throwing them there because I could easily do that.
Yeah.
But when I go home and I'm chilling with my dog and I'm doing what I do, I'm content with being there in my peace and be like, I did that.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter. Like,
Good for you.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't matter at the
Yeah.
end of the day because, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of podcasts right now that are not,
Yeah.
a lot of people that are creating lanes in that because they saw what we were doing. They may not like me,
Yeah.
but that model,
It,
you took a page from here,
yeah. Well,
and I'm okay with that.
good for you,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, that was pretty powerful stuff you just said now. Give me two biggest lessons you've learned from life?
Biggest lessons I've learned. One of them was you've not yet arrived. So never walk through a room thinking you've made it because that will stop you from growing. And then in connection to that, don't think that you know everything. Because I thought I knew everything. I had it figured out supposedly, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, those are the things that I've learned. And then within all of that, being humble, and those two lessons will teach you to, be a person of good.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah, good integrity. Yep. Yep.
Good. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the
Yeah,
time,
man.
for being on the podcast
Yes.
and sharing some of those deeper aspects of your life and
Yeah.
layers of yourself. Thank you for all that
Appreciate
you do.
always.
Looking forward to this next season. You're my first one. Now that I'm
Damn.
back.
Wait, what season is this? Season 2005?
No, technically I think it's like episode almost 40.
Damn.
But I took that break, and so I guess it's the last quarter of the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And
Quarter 3. You're
Yeah.
third quarter right now.
yeah, and I'm booked till November so
Hell
far,
yeah.
which I've been meaning to tell you because,
Yeah.
but we'll talk
Calendar is
after.
all right. You're good.
Yeah.
Hey, you got keys.
Yeah, thanks.
It's okay.
I do.
You're good.
Well, thank you so much, Mario.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate y'all.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.